When we embark on a training plan, it can be tempting to go all out from the start when motivation is high and you want to get the most out of every single session. I mean, we all love cycling, but there are varying sorts of rides for different types of riders. From the pro workout Matthew Hayman would have undertaken before he won Paris-roubaix, a session we'll look at in more detail in this video, to slightly easier ride you might want to do when you're starting to build some fitness. However, depending on your current level of fitness, jumping straight in at the deep end can be counterproductive. So in this video, we're going to take a look at some of the differences between a training session a pro would undertake at full fitness to that of an amateur just starting out, so you can decide how hard to train and why. Okay, before we get started, let's get into that pro workout. Now, this has been prescribed by World Tour coach Kevin Powton and is actually a similar session that he'd have given to Matthew Hayman before that historic Paris-roubaix win. This is a huge day on the bike and would get a classics rider ready for a key goal in the Spring Classics. The ride is split into 3 sections and is to be completed in 6.5 hours. The first 4 hours are to be done in a group if possible at zone 2 and 3. So pushing on really. For me, with an FTP of 370 watts, I'll be looking to average around 330 to 340 watts in this duration and aiming to complete 2,500 to 3,000 kilojoules of work in this period. Then in the 5th hour, things get tough. 2 times 25 minutes at zone 3 with 5 minutes recovery. Looking for a real steady state effort here, and for me, I'd be looking to achieve 380 watts in this interval duration. Into the 6th hour now and things get even more tricky. 4 times 4 minutes at upper zone 4 with 4 minutes recovery, leaving some time to warm down at the end, and the effort is performed on flat or rolling roads. In the real intense intervals, I'd be looking to average around 400 to 420 watts. And because this is such a physically taxing ride, you have to really stay on top of your fueling strategy and really push the boundaries of your carbohydrates intake into the upper levels. So aim to eat around 90 grams of carbs per hour. Okay, so that is the pro workout. Thanks again to Kevin for sending that over, but let's hear from Kevin himself and go through the particulars of that session and why it's so important for a rider preparing for a race like Paris-roubaix.
How long would it take to build up to that sort of session? So I'm guessing you wouldn't kind of throw that in early winter, it'd be more kind of in the period before the classics, kind of as a last sharpener.
Yeah, so this is obviously pre-season's been done. Normally the first racing would have been completed, and then this is the last sort of sessions leading into the racing block where the riders, or Matt, was fresh, recovered and ready to really adapt to the intensity and fully benefit from it.
And how many days recovery would you have before this session? Would it be 1 or 2 or a bit more?
Yeah, normally a couple of days. So leading into a big racing block like the Classics, we wouldn't do blocks of work anymore. Like normally we do 2 or 3 day blocks of work in a row and then recovery. In the 10 days or 12 days leading into the Classics, we'd always do like a hard session of intensity, then 1 or 2 days of recovery, another hard day, and then recovery again. So every session we're looking to be performing at your best and completing that session with good sensations.
And is this really trying to kind of replicate the same intensity of a race? So would you see similar numbers in this session as you would in the actual kind of main goal of the season?
Yeah, this session is not so much about matching the intensity, it's more about matching the fatigue. So that's why we have the early part is, I really recommend doing a group ride or some motor pacing if you can for the first few hours and build up some fatigue. And then the last 2 or 3 hours is about more race-specific intensity, or that tempo type effort of you've got your nose in the wind for a long period of time on your own, and then the sharper, more intense work at the end, as you would expect in a race.
Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of working on all systems, but you're looking to really kind of maximise that fatigue.
Yeah, well, the thing is, as you know, Conor, in a race, especially a classic, in the first hour, everybody's good. In the second hour, everybody's good as well. In the third hour, not everybody is. In the 4th hour, there's less that are good. So everyone's good at the beginning, but the more we can overcome fatigue later in the race, that's when the guys come out. So the power that is produced at the end, almost anybody can do when they're fresh, but it's doing it after 4,000 kilojoules of work. That's when it really becomes more specific.
And what would you say to someone who kind of saw this session, maybe they're training 3 or 4 hours a week, but they wanted to give this a go? What would you say to them?
Definitely give it a go. It's good to experience what a classic session is like. As we said, approach it with fresh legs, good recovery. Think about nutrition. You would definitely want to be on top of nutrition the entire day, so don't get behind on carb intake. We normally look to consume 60 to 90 grams per hour. It can be more with a race intensity, so don't get behind on nutrition. Do the first 3 or 4 hours with a group if you can. That way it's not steady state riding, it's more on the wheels, in the wind a little bit, mix it up a little bit. And then, try and increase the intensity as the session goes on.
And what about after the session? Would you say your recovery be kind of lengthened after it? Need a few more days to rest up?
Yeah, look, obviously you'd expect to be fatigued and sore afterwards, particularly muscular soreness. This is the kind of session for the amateur rider that's really going to push the limits of what the capabilities are. So expect some muscle soreness, some tightness afterwards. But I would actually recommend the day after, get out and do a nice 1 hour recovery ride and have the second day as a day off the bike. Quite often we do a big hard ride, have the day off after the intense session and then recovery after that. But the body likes to wind down slowly, I guess, and then have the second day as a day off the bike.
Okay. And have you ever had any riders who've attempted this and they've just not had the form, not been in the right place, and you've kind of been like, right, need to kind of realign our goals now?
Look, that's a good question, because as a coach, this is a risky session because this is when it's too late to do anything else. So this is before the racing block. And when the rider completes this session, you're always waiting for the feedback and you want to hear that, yep, I felt good today, the legs were great, I'm ready to go. Whereas if they complete the session and the sensations weren't quite there, there's no time to do anything else anyway. So this is all or nothing, this session. This is the session where the rider's going to gain confidence that they're ready for the racing ahead, or they might question their preparation.
Okay, it's a big day then, big day. Kevin, thanks so much for talking through it all with us. Really appreciate your time.
No problems, good luck with it.
Thanks again to Kevin for going through that session with us. But now let's look at the sort of ride that a beginner would undertake when just starting out on structured training. Now, if you're just starting out at the beginning of a training period, we'd recommend something like a 2-hour ride on a known rate to you, which you like and enjoy. And in that ride, you want to try and include 2 by 10 minutes where you start to up the pace, maybe on a climb or on a flatter road where you increase the speed, and you just want to push on a bit, raise your heart rate, and ride in a rhythm that's a little bit uncomfortable. You don't have to go anything too crazy and be busting yourself by the end, but you do want to kind of make your legs feel that little bit uncomfortable. Now, if you do find this workout tough, don't be ashamed of it, because we all have to start somewhere. This is the sort of ride that's perfect to build some fitness and then slowly adding more steps to ride duration, up the intensity, and work your way up in terms of fitness. There are some obvious differences between this ride and the pro workout we talked about earlier. There are also some different aims of the ride. Let's get into those now. Okay, so just to reinforce what Kevin said, that pro workout is really designed for a rider who's already on top form. That day is going to come quite close to a key goal, and you're really looking to add those last drops of form and fitness to the rider before they go on and do everything they can in their main target of the year. It's got those real short, sharp, intense efforts right at the end of the ride, which are completed under high levels of fatigue to really mimic a race day scenario. The amateur workout, on the other hand, that's when you're just starting out on a training plan. You're looking to slowly start to improve your fitness, get back into riding the bike, and you're not on the ladder, you're not that high up the ladder that you want to really push yourself to your limits. You're just slowly beginning and getting your training underway. Those rides are polar opposites, and I'm not trying to say you should complete one ride or the other, because there's a whole journey of training, dedication and time between the two. But by all means, if you want to give that pro workout a go, then give it a try. But without the relative fitness, you will find it incredibly difficult to complete, and you'll also have to devote a good bit of time to recovery afterwards. Training is a game of patience, taking gradual steps to slowly increase your fitness. Pros don't just gain that fitness overnight, and it would take plenty of years, time and effort to get up to that level of form. Now, most experienced riders would take a break in the autumn and restart their training after a bit of a holiday and some rest. Now, they wouldn't just jump straight back into that pro workout, and most would start with the beginner session we described in this video and then slowly, gradually build their fitness back up. As I said before, the key to completing longer, more intense rides is gradual steps, often called ramp rate. The way we increase our training load over time has a big impact on our fitness. Load on that training too quickly and you'll find that your body will start to protest, because you simply won't be able to cope with the training sessions you're trying to complete. You'll probably spend more time recovering than actually building form, and in all honesty, you'll probably end up worse off than when you started. Don't load the training on enough and you simply won't achieve any increase in fitness. We all react differently, but a good rule of thumb is to try to complete a 10 to 14 day block, what we call a training build phase. Now, in this build phase, you want to have some quite hard sessions, really get a rhythm going, so you're pushing on throughout the 2 weeks, but also making sure you have adequate rest in between each key session in the block. If you find that 2-hour ride that we described earlier a challenge, then you want to make that the target ride in this block. So the hardest ride you'd complete in that period. Then you want to take a week's rest. So gentle recovery rides without any intensity. Afterwards, repeat that 10 to 14 day block, but ramp up the training to make it that bit harder. So increase the duration, but also the intensity of the rides by adding in some specific intervals. Keep making those adjustments and kind of increasing the workload of each block, and slowly your body will start to adapt. So eventually it's able to cope with those super hard, long, intense training rides. But let's get a poll going on the GCN app. How long does it take you to improve your fitness with some dedicated training? 1, 2, 4 or 8 weeks? Please let us know in the GCN app, and you'll find the poll in the description below. Lastly, don't forget to take into account lifestyle stresses to your training. Things like moving house or taking on a new job can really impact your fatigue levels, and in turn impact your ability to manage training over a set period of time. Now, I really hope that you found this video useful and it's helped you better manage, understand and take your training in the right direction. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up and let us know in the comment section below, what's the hardest session you've ever completed on the bike and how did you feel afterwards? Get some interesting responses to that one. Right, thanks for watching all. See you on the next video.